Miller with the Martin County Historical Society, and this is our oral history project. We're privileged today to have Miss Mary Griffin and her daughters Nikki Nelson and Jean Rogers give us the background of their years in Pinetown, in farm life, and then their adult, young grown-up years at Williamston High School and then later college. Thank you so much for being here today with us. We want to start with Miss Mary because she has the richest memory of anybody I've ever seen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You're just 90, how many years are you?
Oh, 76. Well, it's August, I'll be 7, whichever you want to take, 97 years. It'll be in August.
Yeah. That's quite nice. And
Yeah.
you're just so pretty and alert.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And you grew up in Pinetown?
I did. Very small town, but nice. I still go down there and get such comfort from being there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the year of your birth, Miss Mary?
1911,
1911.
August 25th.
And the name of your parents?
S.A. My father was Samuel Henry Carroll, but they always called him Tove, T-O-V-E. And my mother was Sophie Hill Carroll.
And they were natives of the area?
Chocowinity Township in Beaufort County.
So, good. What was Pinetown like in those early years?
In the beginning, Sarah Parker went down there and really cut virgin timber all around, and he sort of got rich from it. And a lot of people did have a good income from all that. But the town, it was a nice little, growing, thrifty little town. I enjoyed being there when I was growing up.
It was a railroad.
Yeah, it was. The trains all met there. I'm glad you mentioned that, G. It was a railroad town, and the trains were important.
Where did they train, the timber was carried out on the train?
Yes.
So it was a big timber center.
Yes, it was. Very much in the beginning, and well, that was at least 1900, maybe started a little before, late 18s.
Do you remember the name of the investors in the timber industry?
Well, Mr. Parker was the one that maneuvered everything. Now, I don't remember.
Was he from out of state?
No, he moved his family out there and built a gorgeous home. And lived there until sort of died down. There was nothing there, and they moved back to Virginia, where they came from.
So the investors then were from out of state.
Yes, they were. I would say that. Though I think a lot of it was done in North Carolina. I'm sure of that.
Wonder where the timber was shipped to.
I do not know that.
Well,
Where was the timber? Timber was very important in the beginning of this century. And you must be able to find it at the courthouse in Beaufort County. You'd find out things, I think.
Yeah, you could. Probably, Patsy, it was shipped to the Virginia
I expect.
border, up to the ports and so
Because
forth.
they were right
there,
on the
probably.
line.
Because I think that was, they used the water and the rail, just like they do in Williamston.
Virginia was right there, joined us.
So most likely it was an export product.
That's right.
I
The
guess.
Dismal Swamp was all involved with that too, and that goes on up to Virginia to some reason.
Yes, it does. Now, in the early years, there were retail stores in Pinetown.
We had 5 stores down there in that little small town. I was in the family that had one of them, and I grew up in that store, and they found out I could be some help, and that took care of my Saturdays when I wanted to play. But anyway, I worked in that store till I got married.
And what did you do in the store?
Well, it was a country store. We sold everything from greasy lard, and then they want material after you got your hands all messy. We sold everything there, groceries of every kind.
Mule collars?
What?
Mule collars?
Oh, yes, I have sold things like that. Well, of course, they just come in and get them, and I didn't know much about it except take the pay.
You mentioned coffees.
Yeah, we did have two outbuildings, warehouses, and they sold fertilizer of everything that you need for farm, and coffins to bury you in. I never sold a coffin though, but my boss man did.
So who was your boss man?
Well, I started with Mr. D.S. Swain. He had, when it was our family's business.
Uncle Charlie.
Uncle Charlie Jefferson. He started it from nothing, and Pinetown grew from a nothing to a little town. And then when he died, Mr. Swain, that had a business in Acre Station, 2 miles away, he bought all that, and I still work for him.
Ma, tell about when Uncle Charlie would grind the corn.
Oh yeah, Uncle Charlie, we had all those big old buildings and sold everything about the farm you needed, and the people would bring their corn to be ground into meal. He probably knows what I'm talking about. And Uncle Charlie had this building that had the machine in it that ground the grain up to whatever they wanted. What other things did you use? Hominy and anything.
Grits and cornmeal.
From cornmeal. Meal mostly. And he would come to the door after grinding all that, and he only shaved weekends with that beard stuck full of, I can remember him so well. He was short and fat, and that beard full of cornmeal.
I never
Husk.
That's my earliest memories.
Uncle Charlie
Yes,
Jefferson.
yes.
Tell us.
He married my father's sister, and they never had any children. My mother died before I was 2. She asked them to take me because there was other grandkids that she thought her mother wouldn't have time to look after, and I might get imposed on, I think was the reason. So they took me, and I lived with them, and they called what we call it raised me.
And you were Little Mary, and she was Big Mary.
Yeah, my aunt was named Mary. So all my life, I still go down there. The natives call me Little Mary.
Is that right? You still have friends there?
Oh yeah, I go there. I just have to go once in a while.
All
I
right.
don't leave there.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And so tell us about the social activities in Pinetown.
We used to have square dances. We had what we call a hall. It was that big old building for the social things.
The
small
Opera
town.
House.
Huh?
Was it the Opera House? You've got
I don't believe it called Opera House, but anyway, it might be known as that. And the people meet there for all kind of personal and the small town activities. I enjoy my growing up there.
I know you
It was
did.
great to grow up in a small town.
I did. I grew up in a small
Yeah,
town.
I didn't know. You knew everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody helped you. And of course, there was reverse things, but they were all right too.
It certainly was an education to
Yeah.
have that early life experiences
And
with
going
extended
to
families.
school. School was important.
Yes, and you went to school in Pinetown, right?
All my life, that's the only place I did go. But the school was next to Washington School. Washington was a city, a county capital city, but we didn't have many big towns. Janesville and Pinetown came next from Washington.
When would you go to Washington? Tell me about your trip to Washington.
My girlfriend and I, after we sort of grew up, we get on that 10 o'clock train and go to Washington. It was about 1 block from downtown. We walk uptown and buy what we needed. We had to go there for shoes mostly. And we had the best time. That was good. And then when we had to come home on either We had a train came in at 2 o'clock, one came in at 3 from, same train I think, just went back to through Pinetown, going to Bellhaven. So we went back home.
So you have a day at the city.
Yeah, wasn't that good?
Yeah, very
I
good.
enjoyed that.
Okay, then you got married. Who was your,
Well, you might mention their bum trip.
oh, that's
Oh, Lord,
before you
no.
got married. What was that?
And I can't find my book with
That's
my
all right. We got enough. We got a picture of it.
And my best girlfriend, and she was 3 years old and had taught school for a few years. And I can't remember the beginning of us deciding we didn't have money to go anywhere. We couldn't go nowhere because people just didn't have any money. So we decided to bum a trip to see her relative in Norfolk, not Norfolk, which one?
Washington, D.C.,
We went to Washington, D.C. Only time I ever got there.
Asheville.
We had the best time. We bumped rides.
You did.
You'd think it was crazy. I wouldn't allow my child to have done it, not now. But everybody trusted everybody.
Yes. Aren't we naive?
Yeah, but the people were so nice when you didn't have a man that said a bad word or made a pass, and they buy our meals if it was mealtime. It was just grand.
Well, you were certainly lucky
Yeah,
to
we
be two
loved it.
women traveling.
And we got
On the
to
highway.
go. We went to Washington City and stayed a week with a family from Pinetown that lived there and moved up there. And we went to Washington, D.C. We went to Asheville. We bummed to Asheville and stayed a
You
week
rode on a
there.
motorcycle?
One of our bum rides, I rode on, Callie rode behind him on thing, and I had to sit behind her. Never that fell off back on the motorcycle.
I can just see you in my mind's eye.
Yes.
Yes.
Only time I ever got to Washington City, wasn't it? Did it
Yes.
go later years, I reckon.
Right. So,
Had a good time.
she was 18 years old.
I turned 18 during that.
1929.
And that summer I turned 18.
Yes. Yes.
Well, how did you meet John A?
Well, he was half drunk. I didn't have sense enough. Do you remember Washington at all?
Yeah.
Well, they used to have that great big old hall that they gave square dances in. Do you remember going to those?
No.
No,
You're
she's
not
not
old
quite
enough.
old enough.
Do you remember the square
No,
dances?
he's
Well,
not
every
very
week on Saturday they had square dances. And my girlfriends and I would get up to Washington somehow, and we went to a lot of them. And here comes this man up, one of them, to ask me to dance. Had a date there. I was with another young man, much better than John A. He had a lot more money. Anyway, so I told him, no, I didn't want to dance. And anyway, the next day was Sunday, and here he came. Do you remember Ben Lilly? What was his father's name?
Being Lily. Well, I don't
They
know.
met, they're not
No,
old enough.
no.
Anyway, the next day was Sunday, and he appeared at my house with his friend Ben Lilly, and of course I had a girlfriend. So that four of us, we got real friendly and dated together, had the best times.
Granny really liked Daddy too, didn't she?
Yes, she did. Mama, for some reason, liked him.
Big Mary.
Yeah,
Yeah, big. That's right.
Big Mary liked him.
Yes.
Okay, so how long was your courtship?
We got married a year later.
And that was what, 1932?
29, 30.
32.
We got married, you were born,
In
we got
33.
32, and she was married 11 months later, here comes Jean. That will change your life.
How did that change your life, Miss Mary?
Well, don't you have to? A baby, somebody you had to look after and wait on, and we were living in the house with his mother and the family. It was a blame mess. And Miss Jones, you know, older folks didn't think young folks knew anything about raising children. And I thought her ideas were too old-fashioned. I wanted to raise her more modern, and I was so glad when we moved off.
Yeah, and I was born at home, and
Yeah.
Mother had a very hard time. She
Infection.
got poisoning, blood poisoning, and had to go see in and get the doctor. What was the doctor's name from Washington, Mother?
Saunders.
No.
Who was it?
Who were all those? I can't remember.
Those are, what were those?
There's a family of them,
Oh,
but I can't remember their
both
names.
from Canada.
But anyway.
Dr. John?
Yes,
Yeah, Dr.
Taylor.
John.
The
What were
Taylors.
their last
What-
names?
Right.
Rodmans.
Taylors.
Taylors, yeah.
Dr. John Taylor.
And his
Yes.
brother, they both weighed
Yeah,
on
but
me.
anyway, and so the first few weeks, Mother couldn't look
I
out.
know, 6
But
weeks.
anyway.
it was.
Who looked after you while
Well, we lived in the house with his mother and
Yeah.
family, and his sister lived there too.
And so one of them took Jean and one of them took you.
Well, I don't know, they looked after us real well.
That's-
Got a long time, and I got better.
So-
We finally moved on a tenant house where I had 4 rooms, and I was so glad to live.
Your own
We
place.
had $300, and we bought furniture out of, y'all not old enough to remember how cheap these were. I don't really.
Tell us about your shopping for furniture.
Courtney's had a window with the living furniture in it, and it was $90, we bought that. And then we bought a bedroom suite for less than $100. Things were so cheap, can you believe it? And let's see, well, of course we had to have a kitchen. We bought the kitchen. Do you remember those gas stoves, anybody?
I do. We had one.
Well, we bought one for $35, gas stove, and we got the table and 3 chairs.
Green enamel. What's the word?
Yeah.
I remember.
What now?
Yeah, the green enamel table.
Yeah, we kept it for you.
Yes, you did. I remember that. And then also, as I grew up a year, 2 or 3, ponies was in my life. Had a lot of ponies.
And Johnny liked it. He always wanted one. And he liked them too, so she got the pony whether we got anything else or not.
Yeah. And they were actually Dr. Rhodes's children's ponies that they
the first one you
outgrew.
got was one his young Dr. Rhodes.
Mhm.
I knew the old one
Yeah.
too. Gene got his pony.
Yeah.
When they're a pig, Dempsey.
Yeah.
That was a dog.
Oh, that was a dog, excuse me, but there was a
What was
pig.
the pony's name? What was?
Queen.
I can't
I
remember.
can't remember. his name.
Isn't that ridiculous? You're supposed to remember.
Well, after all, it's been a while.
And then in a few years, along came Johnny.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, 10 years.
I was 10 years old.
Well, decided, I wanted to
Well,
have another
after-
child.
Really, what happened was that the war came along, and Daddy, being the only male child, was not drafted.
I
So
know.
that you all ended up
And a
going.
farmer kept it, it was a
That's
farmer
right,
kept him
farming,
back.
right.
And the
And
farmer
you
got
went to
drafted.
Virginia Beach because he could get a job in the,
Carpenter.
yes, in what? What is it? It was at Virginia Beach.
Defense,
Yeah.
Whatever it was at
Yes,
that time, federal
yes.
thing.
We lived at the beach, and Mother loved the beach.
Oh, I didn't want, I almost divorced Johnny because he got tired and wanted to come on the farm. That's what he wanted to do. And we stayed up there a year, and I didn't want to go back. I never did want to live on the farm. In late years, I knew how nice and it was right then.
But anyway.
Anyway, I went to Pinetown, stayed a week before I came home because I didn't want to quit living in Virginia up there.
But anyway, Johnny was born after that.
Yeah, we decided to go ahead and, well, we needed some more children.
Yes.
We had 3 years later, this one came. I don't know whether you were planned or not. Anyway, she came, which was the nicest thing ever happened to me, I think.
Yeah, a little bundle of joy. You had 3 little bundles of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, Jean was
This
so
one-
much older.
I was going through being a near teenager
Yeah,
and having been an only child.
it was terrible for her. I don't know how
No,
she did it.
I was a little spoiled, I do believe.
Well, you were, for 10 years, our only thing to spoil, and you
Yes.
wanted to.
What happened to Johnny?
Um, can't remember the beginning of his illness, can you?
No, well, he was older.
He was an adult when he got
Yes,
sick.
he grew up,
Yeah.
and he,
Well, Johnny
we
was-
all went to farm life school.
Yeah, and to Williamson when, 8th grade had to come to Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
And they adjusted real well. All those farm life kids fitted in up here so well. They did. But Johnny, well, he was very special, of course. He really was, in his own way. He was special. He was
And he and Daddy, he came back home after being in the military and going to state, and he and Daddy had the fertilizer business
Yeah,
together.
built a warehouse and sold fertilizer that way. And they were getting the biggest, nicest business when Johnny got
And
sick at the end of
he married one of my classmates, Sally.
Tom
And they got
Crockett, yeah.
They got married in about, just a few months after they got married was when we found out he was sick.
I know, 3 months I think it was. He had this
Cancer.
lung cancer.
Cancer, pituitary.
Thymus.
Thymus, was it?
Thymus.
Okay, thymus.
Thymus. It was
Thymus.
one of 10 cases known at that time. 72 was when he died.
He was a darling. My
But he-
Johnny.
Tell me about you just driving up and down in front of your house with the other guy, fellas.
It was terrible.
He
They make you wake you up.
Drag racing.
And my son was right there with them, going 90 miles an hour racing.
That precious darling was risking his life.
I know it.
Yes, in
Couldn't
fact, Daddy, the noise and everything woke him up, and Mother tells a story about how she thought he ought to call the patrolman to come and get him, and she said, "You better not, Johnny, because it might be your son that's out there."
And he was.
And you would go out there in your night clothes and tell them to quit, too.
I did a
She
few
did.
times. And they did.
That's right.
He went somewhere else, didn't he?
Yeah, well, you couldn't sleep or anything. It was a lot of noise.
You know, I didn't know anything about that until I was talking with one of Johnny's friends, and he said folks from out of state came to those things to bet on the racing and
That was
everything. It was a
terrible.
big deal. And that it was, I had no idea.
Well, I didn't know all that.
And he had a name on his car, and I think it's still on that car under the shelter.
It might
I
be.
can't remember what it is.
He was right in it and enjoying it, I'll tell you. They all enjoyed it. And I really didn't care, but it got to be too noisy. Too
Well,
much
did you
of
keep
it.
the store out of farm life during the time you were farming?
Yes.
Mm.
And I used to have to stay down there.
You were an
They got-
experienced
Jean
man.
was we didn't keep it open all the time in the beginning. Jean was a baby and I'd have to pick her up off the floor. She couldn't even walk. They'd come to get a penny's worth of ice, 1 pound, or 5 cents worth. That would be penny a pound ice. And I'd pick that baby up and go to the store and get the blame ice before I get back home to be somebody else. But that was dinner time. But we were making a living out of the store. We got a pretty good little living. That's the beginning of having the
The
store.
Depression made it so you had to.
I know, you did anything then. You're not, do you remember the Depression very much? You're too darn young. Yeah. I
Well,
remember all
Did you
of
have
it.
a good school, high school and farm life? I mean,
Yeah,
elementary
I
school.
think we had a good school and lovely teachers.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, and my kids did, I think.
Yeah, see, I was
You
next to the
graduated.
last class that graduated. Well, we had the largest class. There were 21
Oh, yeah.
in our class when we graduated in 1951. That was one of the largest classes they'd ever had. And they had one more graduating class, and then the high school came up to Williamston,
Yeah.
and Mickey and John.
And they were, I
Was
remember.
that back
One
1950?
year, I believe it's 13.
53, or 2 or 3. 53 would be the class at me. I was 51, graduated from high school.
You were the first class came up here, weren't you?
No,
One ahead of you,
no, after me.
after you.
I stayed at Farm Life. Yeah, and then went to WC, remember? And it was a long way off.
It was a huge step to go from Martin
It was.
County
And
to
if
Greensboro.
Mary,
And our
Ola and
kid-
Mariana hadn't gone, I'd probably never thought of it, but they were going.
I think there was 13 of y'all, and they were so,
No, there was 21 in my class. Johnny's
Well, it-
class.
well, that was Johnny's class. and
Yeah.
They were scared to death. Well, not scared, but it was so
This is
different
when they went up to high
coming to
school.
Williamston.
Yes, I was scared the whole time I was in college because it was so far from home.
I know.
Anybody from
Same.
down east, I latched onto them like a little baby sister.
Yeah.
And your class went up.
Yeah, I went through the 8th grade at Farm Life, and then, came to Williamston. It was
So you got a good education there, didn't you?
At Farm Life?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I did. It was,
Milton Griffin was,
two classes to a room.
yeah.
But I thought the teachers were very good.
And Mickey came up and she made a big splash.
Tell us about Vicky's Big Splash.
I don't know, but we were talking about this earlier, Mother was really good about taking me to classes all through those years, like even before grammar school, taking me to dance class, Mom.
I know 4 o'clock, I'd be at the school door and they would be getting out and everything. And then I'd rush Mickey up here for piano lessons or dance classes.
classes, it's true, and then I wanted to be a majorette, so then it was
Another
the
different.
French horn, can you imagine playing
Who were
the
your
French-
teachers at this time?
I don't know if I could, Mr. Butler, of course, was the band director, so he was the sweetheart that
And I like
allowed me to
Mr.
sort of
Butler.
try to play the French horn, even though I didn't do that very well, so that I could be a majorette.
Who taught you to be a majorette?
Is he still living?
Yeah, we still did.
I haven't seen him.
I don't know if I
long.
can remember the name of the mother. There was somebody that had been a majorette before that I took some lessons
Who
from
was all that?
down the road, and I won't remember her name.
Who taught you piano?
Miss Arnold. And I definitely think
Mabel?
she's,
Yeah,
yes, that's
Mabel.
part of why I have such good posture. I do remember her with sitting straight with posture. And I appreciated learning my notes, Mother, even though I know I don't play now. It bode well to
That's
learn to
true.
play music.
Yeah, I
It did.
took some music, not very much. but
Every
it-
one of you, Johnny, too.
And it helps if you've been in a choir. Gene has had his first choir experience about 3 years ago, and he had never sung in a choir, and I really appreciated the fact that I've had some experience.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that came from church too, going to
Sure.
Macedonia and singing in the
True.
church. That was really good. Macedonia was an important part of our
Oh,
childhood
yeah.
too. Was a lot of socialization, and
I
a lot
was-
of those Sunday school teachers were great.
A lot of your peers were there.
I grew
Exactly.
up in what we call Disciple Christian Church. That's what I grew up in. So when my kids came along, I had started going to church out here then, but when my kids came along, I had always gone to church and Sunday school, so I thought they had to go. So I started taking Jean to Macedonia. We got there. Could have gone. I reckon if that church, Piney Grove, had been there then, it wasn't even there then when you
Well,
started.
Yeah.
I might have gone
We
there.
come from a primitive Baptist background.
The
because
grandparents,
of-
well, everybody
Yeah, we
did.
all.
Yes, and Miss Stone, who was
Grandma
our
Sally.
father's, mother, her husband died when Daddy was 9 years old during the flu epidemic. And later on, after her children were gone, she married Elder Edward Stone,
Primitive Baptist.
who was an Englishman who had come to Tarboro and married there and had a family. And she met him going to these meetings they have. Before she went to those meetings, it was the split between the Primitive Baptist Church that was at Smithers Creek, that Piney Grove split off from them. That was
It did.
in the 20s or 30s, I think, Mother, wasn't it? Sometimes
Some on
later.
there.
And that they split, and then this she stayed. I think they may have been some dissension, but anyway, I think she even had her membership at one time at Tarboro. But anyway, she married Elder Stone, and so he became known as Big Daddy. You didn't know too much about Big Daddy
Yeah.
because he died when I was 12 years old. And
Edward Stone.
we had visited, when we went to England, we visited some of the Stone families. And
They
so
were good
forth.
people, lovely.
And did have contact with them in Virginia some, but they have all died now.
So tell me a little bit about your high school years, Jean and Mickey.
Over there.
Well, we stayed at Farm Life and it was,
Milton Griffin was a good teacher.
yes, I was on a basketball team and I was a guard. And we played for 4 years and we never won a game.
And Jean had her
I
hand,
had an allergy to the dust, so
and her hands broke out.
I
all the
had to
time.
wear gloves.
She did, to play ball.
To play ball, I had to wear gloves. And the first time Gene Rogers remembers ever seeing me, I was playing basketball with gloves on the bear grass.
He was impressed with that.
I'm not sure. But anyway.
Did you play basketball, Mickey?
I
used to.
No, I did not. No, I was just.
You were a
I was
cheerleader.
No, I was a majorette.
Majorette,
I
okay.
was the
that took up her
majorette. You should tell about, you met Gene at Women's College, or no, you met him?
No,
You knew him
no.
before that?
No, I didn't know him.
Yes.
Gene is
Bear grass.
from Bear Grass.
They
Oh,
told each
well,
other, they didn't know each other.
He's 3 years older than I. And they didn't have the 11th grade, the 12th grade at first. I think it may have been his first year, but during the war, they lacked principals and all because all the men were in service. But anyway, his family sent him to Oak Ridge when he was in the 11th grade. And anyway, our paths did not cross until the summer. He then went in the Coast Guard for 3 years. He then, after Oak Ridge, he went to UNC Chapel Hill, and then went in service for 3 years. And when he got out there, we met at the June German. One June German in Rocky Mount, where the first time I saw him. And
The June German being
a dance of the big music bands that used to rotate from warehouse to
the
warehouse,
big band era.
the big band
Weren't
era.
they good?
And I was no, that's way up there. I must have been a junior in college at WC at that time. But anyway,
But it was a thing to do.
it was the thing to do. And
Junior
boy, did
German.
I get in trouble the first one I went
What
to.
did you do?
I stayed out until about 3 or 4 o'clock, and Daddy found out. Mother used to cover for me.
That was a time. His
And
rules
he
are
was-
different from mine. And I'd
Yes.
try to sneak Jean in, leave the door
Yes.
open.
So
Such a mess.
anyway,
They don't know what we have to do for them, do they?
No, that's right.
And I also remember that my really beautiful sister had some really good-looking boyfriends
Oh,
all
and
during
Ricky
those
had to
years,
come.
and I loved it because sometimes I'd get to sit between them on
I
the
know it.
sofa, or they'd take
She
me.
sit right there as long as
And
they,
there was one time when I had my tonsils removed, and Jean was taking care of me, and she bought me a chocolate nut sundae, and that
How about that?
made the stitches erupt.
I'd forgotten that.
Oh, that was good, though, wasn't
And
I
my
don't
big-
remember that.
and my big sister, who was the harvest queen and just gorgeous in her bathing
My
suit.
it? Miss Martin County?
Yeah, I was a Miss Martin.
She was a Miss
I
Martin
was a
County.
Miss Martin.
You were.
I was the runner-up. Bridesmaid.
And as my
And
mom,
I was doing all the driving.
she
I'm
was.
telling you, I stayed on the road, going to get them way out there and carrying them up here. to
You're
some-
like, and shopping, Mother and I were talking about that earlier. She would take me out of school to go to Rocky Mountain to go shopping
I
for
know.
clothes.
Well, we didn't
But
have
we
the
were always
stores here
well-dressed.
like you do now. You can buy anything here now, but you couldn't then.
And Mother did not get many dolls when she was young, but Mickey and I had sketches.
Yeah, I'm
all
all that was mine wanting dolls.
But that was all right.
I guess.
Mickey, did you know how to play with a doll?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Cuddles was my first doll. One of the first ones that would wet. You know.
Betsy Wetsy.
Exactly. Exactly.
You remember all that.
But we would have,
And I was getting the thrill of buying and being with toys that I never had.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't available. They didn't even make them.
In fact,
Well,
she
you didn't
still
get
got
yours
most
either
of
like
them.
that.
She still got most of them in the closets upstairs.
I have. In their boxes, they're as good as new.
Oh,
There's
my.
probably a fortune there if we can get an antique dealer. to
I don't know what
give
they'll
them
do
in.
with them. I'm not gonna get rid of them.
That's for sure.
I remember that you were a regular pack rat.
Yeah, I am.
the other thing about the farmer's wife and daughters and the wife that with the vegetables, mother is such a good cook, always has been such a good cook.
Well,
And all those summers of freezing and canning,
And gardens.
and it was so hot, no air conditioning, but it was such good food, wonderful fried chicken and
Yes,
Well,
great
thank you,
biscuits.
Mickey.
Oh, what great biscuits.
that's right, biscuits were
Mother always cooked
Yes.
really good food.
I hadn't had a biscuit in a long time. I won't think
good.
so. A buttered biscuits.
But you know,
When
it
I was a little girl
really,
sitting in the high chair at the table, I wanted the buttered biscuits, and my family buttered that biscuit, opened it up, sprinkled sugar on it. I thought it was the best stuff.
Absolutely.
Along with the coffee with the Eagle brand.
But I didn't
milk.
get coffee. They didn't let me drink too much
I
coffee.
thought Cousin Eva would,
She sneaked me some.
she'd sneak you some coffee with the sugared milk.
Yeah,
Lots of sugar.
but I didn't get too much.
And when I was a girl and would go spend 2 weeks with Granny in Pinetown, she would make peach jacks and apple jacks and homemade lemonade, fresh squeezed. You sit on the swing in the front porch.
Huge big parties down there.
And I can remember sleeping in the bed upstairs, that down bed, and Mother and I'd be in it, you know, and we'd roll into the middle of
Feather
the
bed,
night.
we call it.
And in the middle of the night, the train would go through, and the rain dripping on the tin roof.
You remember all
Still
those
hear
nights.
those.
I can, and the smell of the old house too,
Mhm.
how the old house smelled.
I believe I'm gonna have to take you down there to see the old
And
house.
Granny dipping snuff. Remember, everybody dips snuff in
Yeah.
spittoon.
And chewed tobacco.
That's right. They did.
I didn't ever do so.
No, you didn't. I remember I would take peanut butter, Johnny and I would take peanut butter, put it in our mouth and pretend like it was snuff.
Isn't it sad our son couldn't be here to
I know.
be with us? I miss
You
him.
have such good memories of
Oh,
him.
he was a dear person. Of course, I think so. He was, very dear.
Little Johnny died in 1972. And then Daddy, who had emphysema and was frail for a while, he died in 82.
And I am so darn healthy, it's ridiculous. I'm still gonna be right here.
Yes, and Daddy's family, there were 4 of them, and they all died in, wasn't it about a year and a half? I think all
Did
of
you know Mildred Ward? That was the baby.
them.
Well, Effie, do you remember Effie?
Effie Sparrow.
Oh, you know.
I know
And
who you're
Chloe
speaking of.
Gherkin.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Chloe Gherkin.
Chloe lived, I think, to be the oldest one. She was
She is.
80.
Yeah.
Chloe, Effie, John A. Mildred.
Unfortunately, a lot of them were cigarette smokers.
Mm.
Let's see
Effie
there.
was.
Chloe Gherkin was John's sister.
Mother.
Mhm.
Now there's a current Chloe.
Right. Yes.
Okay, I was a little confused.
Chloe, and they had their youngest daughter was named Chloe. She
Yeah.
still lives at the home place by herself.
The
Mhm.
end.
Mhm. At the bed and breakfast, right?
Yeah, and I never see her unless I go there. She don't. But they never did visit. I come from a close family of visiting and this and that,
And hugging.
and they named Griffins are the darndest I've ever seen.
Everybody hugged all the time, and Daddy's
They
family
did,
didn't
my
hug.
family.
They were not huggers.
Mm-mm.
I know.
Well, Mickey, tell us about your husband.
David Nelson is his name, and I'm pondering whether I tell the story of how we met. It's a
Do
little
that.
racy, but I'll tell it anyway.
Yes, we want something
Um,
spicy in this thing.
It was a month after Johnny died. Very sad, hadn't had a good time in a long time, and I was in Mecklenburg County working at the Mill Health Center there, had my master's in social work, it was my first job. And a group of us went down to Edenton, Georgia, to the first humanistic psychology conference. And I was with a group of my friends, and David was in medical school at Emory, and he had taken a year off in a pilot project because Emory was trying to get the doctors to go to be psychiatrists. So this analyst and this sociologist professor took he and a friend to this conference, telling them they wanted them to see what the other side was like, the more far-eyed kind of alternative type medicine and psychiatry as opposed to Emory's medical school. And so the teachers at this conference were like tarot card readers and people doing massage and just weird kinds of stuff.
Now, this was in 1973.
72, a month after Johnny died. And they had a massage workshop where there were about 100, 200 people, and they had Bart and Marta from California in their long flowing robes who were demonstrating massage. And so they told people they could take off their shirts. I did not take off my shirt. David did take off his shirt, and I was not massaging David, but he was across the room, and he was the only person that had a suntan. And I saw him over there, and I went over and introduced myself. That's how
The suntan got you.
He'd been down to Florida to see his sister, and he had a suntan, so that's how I met him.
And where was his college degree from?
He was from Emory, yeah, the college and medical school. So
And he was a native of Florida?
he was born in Rhode Island, but he spent most of his formative years in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
Yes. And
Then you went on from there, after you finished at Emory.
He did, and at that point, I moved to Atlanta and joined him, and then we went to Denver in 75, where he finished his residency in psychiatry, and I was working at Aurora Community Mental Health Center for 15 years. Then in 1990, we moved to California, where we are now, Santa Rosa, California. And I'm at Kaiser. Both of us work for Kaiser Psychiatry Department.
Now, what is Kaiser?
It's
Is
an
that
insurance company, but it also provides care, provides treatment. It's an HMO, the biggest, probably about the biggest in the country.
however, we don't have them in North Carolina.
They're in Georgia, I think is the only place they are here.
Mm-hmm.
I really say it's the best place I've ever worked. It's not the easiest place I've ever worked, but it's the best place I've ever
Vicki
worked.
is in charge of what? What is your?
I work with the most seriously mentally ill. I do something called an intensive outpatient program. It's group treatment for people that either have psychotic disorders or suicidal. And that's my main patients that I see.
So it's intense.
Must be.
Well, what do you think of your mother with all that?
I think you did a great job, Mother. You and Daddy, I knew I was loved. I really did know I was loved.
No, well, I mean, you in all this.
I think you and Daddy did a great job. I think you
Well, we
were
got
very
three
good.
fine children.
I decided it really helps to be the baby, to have an older sister and an older brother that are looking after you.
I
In
know.
addition to having a mother and a father that love you, that really bodes well.
And Mickey was always the cute, dear one. She, was just there.
Well, you know there's a certain privilege of being firstborn.
Yeah.
Mickey, do you agree with that?
No question about it. I remember when Jean was at WC and she came and brought me the idea for a ponytail. I can vividly remember
Is
that right?
Yes.
I didn't know
I
that.
remember it so
And you
well.
bought me my first bra. I remember that too.
I remember that. I remember that ponytail.
Yeah, I do.
You had somebody at school that one.
And you definitely, it was a big difference in our age, but you helped me with a lot of things and understanding a lot of things.
Well,
Family
I
dynamics, as
cherished
we would say in my business.
I think I was kind of messy to get along with, so they had to have
We all
somebody.
have our weaker points.
Well, we
there.
were saying you definitely mellowed with age,
That's
hadn't you, Mother?
right, that's right.
Even
I
that.
hope so.
Yeah.
Yes, you have. And that does well.
Now, what's life like today?
Me,
Tell us what your life today is like.
I'm a lazy old woman, and I don't have a soul to make me do anything, which is good. I don't drive. I never have been a driver. I would go a little more if I chauffeured better. But I'm not a go anyway. I stay home most of the time.
What about
And I look at my soap operas. I have 2 hours. I do my little dab of work in the morning and have lunch, and then I sit for 2 hours looking at soap operas. Isn't that ridiculous?
No, not at all.
Well, they made those soap operas for us old women.
you also really good about reading the paper and doing the
Oh
crossword
yeah, I
puzzles.
have to have
Takes
a
2
puzzle
papers.
and paper every day. I
And she
get 2
does the
papers,
puzzles.
and I enjoy those. And I need some more math. I got plenty of doing the puzzle. The crosswords gives me that. And I often say I wish I had a math problem every day.
Yeah, well,
Keep that
you do pretty
going.
well. And she stays by herself.
I
Even though she
do.
has a security system, and that's commendable.
I know, and I'm scared sometimes, but
Yeah,
most of the
but
time I'm not.
she has her own techniques for feeling secure.
Well, Jane, tell us about your life today.
My
You had
life-
several years in Raleigh. You with your
Yeah.
husband.
Well, I did get married to Jean, and we did have 3 children, and we did move. He went back to Chapel Hill to get a master's, and I worked there. And then we went to South Carolina for a year.
I'd forgotten
and,
that.
Yeah, stayed there.
McCall.
Yeah, McCall for
Yeah.
1 year. And that was the year that Jeannie was born. And then we moved to St. Paul's for 3 years. And by gracious, we had another baby 11 months later. Mother was disgraced.
I was.
We had
Best thing
Laurie.
ever happened, Lord.
And then Richard was born 3 years later, and when he was 6 months old, we then moved. Jean at this time was principal, and then we moved to Chatham County, Pittsburgh, where he was assistant superintendent. That just came in. They hadn't had those before, and then we've been there a year, and then we moved back to Williamston to be involved with the marches and integration of schools.
Hard
And,
time.
It wasn't easy for anybody, but they got through it. Gene lost a little hair, and we thought he was going bald. And we did have to have a stomach operation to take care of the ulcers, but he got through it very well.
Now today, how do you spend your time? Are you,
I'm retired. Yeah, I did go back to school and get a master's in counseling and school psychology. And he ran for the legislature in '87, I believe it was, after he retired from the 30 years of education. And then he was in the legislature for 16 years. And we enjoyed that little, romp in the sense of living in Raleigh part-time, and the Sir Walter Cabinet, the social aspects of it and so forth. And I retired from my job after 20 years in '89 or '90. And came home and was planning to make a big splash here in Martin County and do some vigorous volunteer work and get something done. And then I came up with the local politics and the commissioners that don't, get around to things. So at this point, I'm getting out of all my volunteer. But no, I do enjoy.
You also have been real important for Paul's, your grandson.
Yes.
Helping with your grandson.
Oh, and we have 5 gorgeous grandchildren. Richard has 3. He has, let me see if I remember their names, Griffin and Jackie and John Douglas. They are 11, nearly 9. She's 8, and then John Douglas is 5. We have our adorable Mary Carroll, who is our adopted granddaughter.
Named for mothers.
Yes. And she is
She has
14.
the other side Mary too.
She's the only child that looks like me.
Brown eyes and brown hair.
That's right. And then
And she's adopted.
yeah, and Jeannie has Paul, Eugene Sessoms, who lives here in Weedston, and he reminds us of Johnny and Richard a
Yeah,
little bit.
Richard.
He was our first
His eyes are like my eyes.
Yes, they're green. And Jackie looks a little bit like Mother.
And of all the grandchildren, there's only one got brown eyes like Jean.
Yeah.
The one, Chinese, she's got her dad's eyes, and I sure don't want her to get out of the family.
Well, you wait, and this next generation that comes along will have some bright eyes.
Well, we want to.
I bet they will
Yes,
too.
yes. But anyway, and Jean has finally retired to some degree, and if we can keep our bodies working and get the kinks out of them, we are really blessed to be able to eat and live comfortably and have our family around us.
You have a home at Ocracoke, and
Yes,
you travel abroad some.
occasionally, but you know, Jean won't go to Australia. He says it's too far, so I don't know where we're going next. I'm looking a little bit up to Canada, you know, they talk about that one. But anyway, we haven't been this past year, but we need.
This summer will be a good time to go to Canada.
It would, except I don't think Jean's gonna move on that one yet. But anyway, we're very fortunate and we have a good life and we're thankful for the many blessings we have.
You're very active in public affairs and in the church.
Well, the
And
church is another issue that we can talk about, but we won't.
I do think that part of our family, interestingly, Mother and Daddy had their own spirituality, I think. But Jean and I definitely have a faith connection, a real strong one, that I think has boded real well for both of us in life. Practicing in different ways, sometimes within organized ways and a lot. And I also find it with nature, and I think that's the farmer's daughter, again, the miracle of planting a seed and things growing, and flowers, the beauty of flowers.
That's sort of spiritual too.
Yes, the spiritual aspects of life are what
Give
I'm
you the
looking
strength.
into more now.
It gives you a lot of
Yes.
strength to move
Yes,
forward.
it does. And it is. And my girls say that that we're instinctually connected because if there's a real problem, I know to call them. They don't have to tell me. And just like when I feel, you know, there's just intuitions there that if you can go back and be a part of nature and life, it comes to definitely.
Miss Mary,
Yes, ma'am.
if you could name one thing that you remember both about, most about your life, can you share that with us, please?
Oh, I hadn't thought about it. There's so many important things. Well, I don't know, maybe meeting, I mean, getting married and moving to a farm. I had never lived on a farm. And I thought I had ruined myself, tell you the truth. It was lonesome. And when I got married, we didn't even have a store over there. It was just across the roads and nobody lived near. I thought I had paid the dickens. You gotta love a man pretty much to put up with all that.
Yes, you do, and you've had a.
But it turned out well, and I've been real fortunate because my husband was a good man and he provided. And
50 years you were married.
yeah, and so I have no reason not to.
You have a-
I was lonesome out in the country, I'll tell you that.
But you have.
But my little
well,
teeny town wasn't much more.
But she lives by herself now and she cooks really well.
Yeah,
Really
well, you
by
have.
herself.
Well, frankly, I think I get along better by myself than I'm trying to cook with somebody.
It's just what she
So
says.
I too.
We were kidding the other night about how the only way my husband and I would be able to retire, he's always told me, is if we come and live with Mother. And when I said that, she said, so long as she's the boss.
Yeah. I have been boss a long time. And my husband let me boss before he died, pretty much. So I don't know how to get along if somebody came in and tried to take over.
Well, I want to thank the three of you for taking part in our oral history.
Well, I have enjoyed being
I've
with you.
enjoyed it too,
Yeah,
so
it was
much.
nice, yeah.
And thank you.
And well, let me add
Okay.
that I feel very honored and fortunate, lucky, everything you can feel good with all three of my children. They were nice kids. They are nice kids.
Yes.
And of course, the worst thing, I guess, was the death of our son. You don't get over that.
No.
And,
Never prepared to
but,
lose a child.
I know, but I have been real fortunate with my children. They've all not disgraced us in what.
I'm proud of them too. They're my
I
friends.
know, they're fine kids.
And I'm proud to have this opportunity to visit with you
Well,
and
I'm glad
with some
to
of your
meet you.
most intimate stories.
Thank you,
I'm glad to
Betsy.
meet you, and I want you to come see me once in a while.
I will. I'll go with you.
Do that.
Thank you so much. And
I don't cook much anymore, but I need to cook a good meal one time.
I don't cook much either.
That's something how you
Especially
do.
when it's this hot.
There's so many frozen dinners that I like.
I do too. I can't remember how I used to close off this. We haven't done anything. We haven't had this much fun yet lately. Thanks so much. Then we're signing off now. I love ice tea.
Mom, would you rather? Well, there is some.
I'll have a biscuit thing. That's
Now, that's got barbecue. Can you handle the barbecue?
Oh, yeah, I like it.
Good.
Very good.
Let's see, I've forgotten this book already.
So I can take her home anytime, right? Are y'all gonna make it back at 5?
I will, for sure.
Well, I don't know about
What's that?
her.
We're going out to dinner. We're going to Jean's in here.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
This is Mary Griffin's mother-in-law, mother of John A. Griffin, Sally Ann Corey Griffin Stone.
Go ahead.
Elder Edward Stone, second husband of Sally Corey Griffin.
Say it's Gene Rogers' stepfather. Is that right? No?
No, it is, I'm the Gene Rogers you're referring
Right.
to. It's Gene Rogers' father's step.
Okay. Your step-granddaddy then?
That's right, my step-granddaddy.
Okay. Wait a minute, now go.
Charles and Mary Caro Jefferson, stepmother of Mary Griffin.
Okay, now tell who she is.
Little Mary.
And who is Little Mary?
That one that's sitting right there.
Well,
Just Little Mary's enough. You don't have to know who she is. Just put that.
that's who Little Mary is.
Mary Caro Griffin.
And she is
Mary.
your,
My mother.
that's what I wanted to
Okay,
hear.
so you want me, I'm the base then.
Right.
My mother.
Right.
Jean's mother. You want me to say Jean's mother?
Yeah, right.
Jean's mother.
All right, go ahead.
Callie Sproul and Mary Griffin. Mary is Jean's mother. Do you want me to tell what it is?
Yep.
It is the bum trip to Washington, D.C. Bum is in quotation marks.
Okay.
Mary and John A. Griffin, Jean's parents.
Yeah.
Effie Griffin Sparrow, aunt to Mickey and Jean Rogers.
Okay.
Tobacco harvesting, Effie, home on leave from the wax, Women's Auxiliary Corps during World War II. She is aunt to Mickey and Jean.
Okay.
Mary and John A. Griffin's family, to the left is Mickey Nelson, parents, and Johnny Griffin and Jean Rogers. Johnny and Sally Crockett Griffin's marriage date, 1970.
Something or other. Okay.
50th anniversary of Mary and John A. wedding. To the left, Effie Sparrow.
In the back.
The back, John Gherkin. In front, Chloe Gherkin. John A., Mary. Mother's brother-in-law, Benny Sawyer, and her sister, Virginia Sawyer. At Greystone Ranch in Denver, Colorado.
Go ahead and do that again.
Mickey and David Nelson's wedding at Greystone Ranch in Denver, Colorado,
When?
29 years ago.
All right.
This is Mother Mary at our 50th anniversary, along with David and Mickey Nelson, my sister.
And whose 50th wedding anniversary?
Jean and Jean Rogers' 50th wedding anniversary. That was August 2 years ago. Do I need to give it? Let's see. It's 2006. I can never remember.